Hi, everyone. It's Abbie here with Dr. John Bell from Welshire Presbyterian Church in Denver, Colorado. This is Tabletop Theology, a lighthearted conversation about serious topics.
So I'm not at home today, Abbie. I'm at work in my office at church.
Man.
And I know I had work to do that had to be here. I had a memorial service this morning and personnel committee meeting. And so I've been looking for this all day. So here we
This
go.
is the highlight,
The
really.
highlight.
And we're going Christmas themed still. And we're going to talk about the star and the Wisemen today.
So I think everybody's probably seen the Denver Post. I mean, it's been a big media thing. The fact that on December 21st of this year, 2020, Jupiter and Saturn are coming very close to each other, and that produces a bright light. And some people think that's the Christmas star. We'll get to that in a minute, but everybody wants to know what this means. And so I decided to have a little fun with it, and I wrote one of my friends who happens to dabble in astrology, not astronomy, but astrology.
Okay.
And asked her what she thought this was all about. She wrote me a nice little email and said, this Jupiter-Saturn thing is getting blamed, for the COVID crisis, which, I think is somewhat interesting. So if you need to blame somebody, blame this constellation. But she wrote, they haven't met in a new sign for over 800 years. In fact, I think it might be 805 years. And they will, this is an astrologer, they will join and usher in a new age, the age of Aquarius. And
That's my sign. It's going to be a good time for me.
Those of us who were around in the 70s remember the age of Aquarius and musical Hair and singing that song and all kinds of things. But she says, just by way of advice, like horoscope, she goes, do something big on the 21st. Do something big, awesome on that day. It will have an impact on the rest of your life. So I don't know whether you're into astrology or not. I take no value judgment on this. I'm just passing along information that might be interesting to some, but I thought that was anyway. December 21st, a big day for astronomy and apparently astrology as well. So that synchronicity of Jupiter and Saturn happens about every 805 years or so. And as you teased at the top of the recording, not broadcast, not taping, that there are many astronomers who believe that probably was the Christmas star. That the two were aligned, and actually Mars came up and joined them at that point, producing a tremendously powerful light. That happened, started about 8 BC. And that whole thing unfolded for about 2 years during that time. So if it's important for you to think Jesus was born on 0 AD, this wouldn't work for you. But if you have some flexibility about the dates when Jesus was born, this is a pretty good bet for the Christmas star. This is what most scholars, this is not a minority, but most scholars say that the wise men in the East would have known that Saturn represented the Jewish people. Now, these stars are associated with a lot. This is not exclusively. But Saturn represented the Jewish people and had some symbolism for a Messiah. That Jupiter has often represented a king or a divine power, a god. So king, divine power, God, Saturn, the Jewish people, and that the conjunction of these two represented something of a dawn rising in the east, a dawn rising in the east, which is symbolic of new birth. So the wise men, if they studied the stars as we expect that they did, would have certainly understood all these symbols were colliding or coming together, and signifying the birth of a new birth of Messiah who had some kind of divine power. So that may be a bit esoteric for some, but that's pretty much fact. Nobody's making that up. That's the way things were. In fact, one of the books I read said this is not in doubt.
Well, I love that we're starting this story with facts, because there are a lot of myths associated with this story. So it's good we're grounding ourselves.
Well, that's good. And again, this happened between apparently 8 BC and 6 BC. So there are other theories as well as to what the star was about, but a pretty interesting thing. And also I do reserve the right to retell any of this on Christmas Eve, because I might be talking about the star then too. So
perfect. Well, then let's transition toward the Wisemen then.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I have questions. I reread some of these stories in the Bible and realized everything I think I know about this story is not in the Bible at all.
For example, you were told there were 3 kings.
Yeah. And
why would you be told that?
Because they brought 3 presents. So duh, but I mean, we have no reason to think that they were 3 kings. It just says they saw a star. It doesn't say they followed a star. And we always think they're riding camels. They probably weren't. Most people rode horses. Like, it just all seems a little like we've based it. It sort of feels like my life's been a lie, a little bit.
Those little creches and nativity scenes and, aren't all, I mean, it doesn't happen all like that.
Yeah. So who were these people? Were they what are magi, wise men, kings? We have like the 3 names for them. Or what were they?
Magi, of course, has the root magic. So they were some kind of mysterious spiritualist. Astrologers would not be absolutely wrong, although they were obviously astronomers because they were following the stars as scientists. So they were scientists, they were spiritualists, they were priests. Zoroastrian priest is the general belief. They were from Babylon, but they had Persian roots, which is where their Zoroastrian tent comes from. The trip from Babylon would have taken 3 or 4 months on camel.
It might have come on horses.
So it took a lot of planning. There's a lot involved, of course. The Bible account seems not to be in doubt necessarily, but they, went to see Herod to inquire as to the divine birth. And of course, there's that mad thing where Herod wants them to go find the child and come back, and we think, of course, Herod intended for evil, what the wise men intended for good. So these are very strange people coming from the East. They're not Hebrew. They don't have the Bible. They don't have the Old Testament. They studied the stars and found Jesus. And that's a beautiful thing. It links Jesus' birth to all of creation. It says, that what we have in Jesus is a astrological event, astronomical event. I mean, it's really beautiful. So that, they didn't read the 4 spiritual laws and, make a statement of faith and confess their sins and, pledge their allegiance to Jesus. They found Jesus through the stars. So when someone says, my sanctuary's in the mountains or my sanctuary's, you have to say, great, because of the wise men. I mean, they came, they worshiped, they gave gifts. and they rightly recognized the divine nature of this infant.
And you said they came from Babylon. Is there pretty general consensus of where? I mean, I've heard like Africa, I've heard Arabia. Like, do we have any idea of where they came from?
The East.
The East. Perfect. Somewhere over there.
No, I've heard Africa also. I mean, as you know, there's so many theories and myths. I'm giving you the basic scholarly consensus, but there are dozens of possibilities.
Well, I heard they had names. Where did these names, like Balthazar, Casper, I forget the other third one, Melchior. Where did those come from? Why are we making up names too?
Those came from, and I should know the answer, but this is an unscripted.
It is. Sorry.
Conversation. I should have taken the time to look that up, but Balthazar, Melchior, and Caspar are the three, and they've generally been known for that. I think it goes back to the play Arabian Nights, maybe.
Somewhere back there. We'll find out. We can say it next time.
Can we cut to a commercial break?
I know. Look at that. We can bring it back next time.
Lots of our readers will be writing in, and lots of our viewers will be writing in saying,
yeah, if you guys know, fill us in.
Idiot, you should have known this, and I should have known this.
It's totally fine. But no, if anyone knows, this is a great bit to get responses. So if you guys know where these names came from.
So, an excuse for my ignorance, normally we deal with this story on Epiphany Sunday, which is usually, around January the 6th, the 12th day of Christmas. So I usually don't start restudying this story until January.
Well, and that's fine because we're doing it now since most people are going to put the Wisemen by their stables and their manger scenes, and they shouldn't be there.
So we're getting ready to have our living nativity this Sunday night. There's your commercial. Little plug, 5 to 7. St. Francis was the first one to do living nativity scenes or nativity scenes because he understood not everybody could read and that he was afraid Christmas was becoming too commercial. Imagine that. Even way back then. So he established the crash for the nativity scene with animals, live animals, and that's been with us ever since. But again, it's a little artificial in terms of the placement of folks. But
we are going to have the Wisemen at our living nativity, so we all do it.
I was asked if there's going to be a live baby Jesus.
There's not. No, not this year.
Didn't think so.
We are adapting to COVID. There will be live animals, and the adults will be live from our youth, but not a live baby this year.
But I assume we will need one next year, so just a thought out there for all the people listening.
Yeah, if you're going to have a baby that will be small around December of next year, let us know. Or start planning now, too, because it's a little early to know.
Well, I didn't have a lot, but this is interesting stuff.
It is, and I am liking this Christmas theme. We have, I think, one more of a Christmas theme before we're taking a little break for the holidays, too. So if anyone has any last-minute holiday theology questions, feel free to send them in. Otherwise, we will come up with some more. But we will look forward to hearing from you all and talking to you all next week. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Abbie.
Merry Christmas, everyone.